Hey everybody, how's it going? So it's the B-log number 16. Yeah, wow. Two B-logs in such a short time. Actually, there's going to be a whole lot more of them here. I'm going to start doing some reviews of these albums that I just got from my friend Tom Griffin, who's a member of the Acapella band Boyz Night Out, and also solo artist, also known as T.R. Griffin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a separate video for each review of this album. All right, so I'm going to start with album number 1 that he sent me. I'm just going to do them in chronological order. The only one that I don't really know the date of is this one that is not marked. That has no date on it. It's because it's like a manufactured CD. Maybe it does have a date. Let me just check really quick. Okay, so 2006. All right, that helps. Okay, so I'll do them all in order here. So I'm going to start with, first off, in 1996, I have to give you a little bit of background information here. All right, so recording was kind of interesting because you had, for the longest time, basically since the Beatles, they've been using this stuff called tape, and it was like real tape, and it would magnetically record audio, and then you could play back, and you could record several tracks at a time. You could dub, you could do whatever you wanted, but it was kind of a hassle because you had to do everything perfectly, right? You had no options of fixing tracks or doing anything like that after. I mean, you could, but you're looking at like actually cutting the tape and like sliding things. I just can't even imagine how time consuming it was. Tape sounds pretty good, but you don't have a lot of flexibility with what you can do as far as editing and as far as post-production. It's basically like what you record is what you get, right? Crap in, crap out, right? Good in, good out, right? That's just how it works in tape, right? But in digital, so anyway, so it's the 90s, right? The mid 90s, and digital recording, people have been trying to figure out how to record on the computer for a long time. Then all of a sudden here comes Apple and Windows, they come around and they start saying, look, we're making these full-on multimedia machines that do not just computing, not just word processing, but they also do audio, and they also do graphics, and they do video, and I mean, not in like a big capacity, but they do all that stuff, right? You can do computer animation, right? And so that kind of stuff was starting to kind of catch on here. And so anyway, these guys, Boyz Night Out, they wanted to, first off form an album, right? They wanted to make an album, and I'm not sure exactly how they started off. I mean, it would be interesting to hear their story. Eventually I'm going to get them on here, at least Tom, but it'd be good to get all of them on here to do an interview. We could somehow figure that out. I'm not sure how, but I'm sure there's, in the multimedia world, sure we could figure out something here. I might have to just, up my production value on that one. But anyway, it'd be interesting to know how they formed. But from what I remember them saying, of course, they were, I was in 7th grade, so you got to admit, you got to think about when you were in 7th grade. Most of my students that I have that knew me when they were in 7th grade are now kind of no longer in 7th grade. So you got to think, you can remember what it was like being in 7th grade, experiencing things for the first time in music. So anyway, so these guys, I think they probably, the 5 of them, got together, and I'm pretty sure they wanted to do some sort of performance, right, with this group. But they decided to record this album. And I'm sure, that they spent some good time on this album. good money as well. This is the 90s. And so, luckily today, recordings have gotten much, much, much cheaper, right? Much cheaper. Like you could pull off a whole on acapella album like these guys did for probably a couple $100, right? But, going into the studio, you go into the studio and, this is the 90s. So, we don't have the same kind of tools in post-production that we do today, like cleaning up tracks and stuff. So you just kind of had to go in there, and I'm sure they had the ability to punch record because this was one of the very first digital recordings ever made, right? Because this is right when digital started kind of rolling out. And so I'm not sure exactly which console this guy used to record on, but I'm sure he probably had some sort of like 32 channel recorder or maybe even less. I don't know. This was like the 90s. So, computing power wasn't as good as it is now, right? So, it could have been 16 channel. And then, you sing, say, okay, we're going to do all the backup parts. And then we're going to sing it until we get it good, and then we're going to bounce that into a separate track, and then we're going to go back and use our tracks again, track a second layer to put on the right side, right? And then we're going to record all of our vocals on top, all of our leads on top of that, right? So there's ways you can get around not having enough inputs and tracks, but it's much better when you have access to every single track that has been recorded just for mixing purposes. It's much better now. I just must say the tape, some people still use it. Some people still roll it out and they're like, oh yeah, I'll just use my old tape machine. And you just go, well, if you want to deal with that hassle, it's a big hassle because, you're not just dealing with setting it up, which is a hassle. Yeah. You got to plug in the mics and all that. You got to roll the tape and then blah, 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 set it up. But, besides the point, after you may be getting a recording that sounds pretty good, that's like, saturated, but, you're still, some may argue that, well, you're getting the tape noise. And so you got that sound, right? That tape sound versus the digital, you have absolutely zero tape sound and it's just perfectly clean. It's interesting seeing how things went, but this is like probably before the DAW, right? For those of you who know anything about recording, DAW stands for Digital Audio Workstation, and it's pretty much what people use to record, right? Here's mine, and I'm just going to warn you, it's really messy. I'm just going to give you a quick look. See? I've got all that right there. So you saw I've got a Pro Tools keyboard, which is very helpful. I highly recommend if you are into recording, you need to get the right gear, right? You have to get, you have a computer, doesn't matter really which computer you have. This is my cat, Gracie. She wants to say hi. She's been with me now for like about 10 years. And she's gone everywhere with me, and she thinks she runs the house. So digital recording. So digital audio workstations are like the computer. You can visually look at all the tracks. You can edit them, and you can do all kinds of stuff. You can do all your EQ, all your compression in the computer. But, this album, though, I'm pretty sure it was probably, unless this guy had just like a ton of money, because we're talking like, to have the stuff that we have now, that you're recording your album for like, less than $100, you have to think, you're to have just that little setup, something that's maybe not even that good. You're looking at something that's thousands and thousands of dollars, right? And so to get that kind of quality of recordings, you're looking at having to, go to a major record label studio just to get somebody who has like Pro Tools on a computer, right? You know, it's like you think that that's something that a lot of people have. I mean, I have it on my computer, right? So it's like a lot of people have it on their computer now, but back then it was like something that you had to spend a lot of money for. Anyway, back to this album here. So this album was digitally recorded. So that being said, this is also the 90s, and I don't know if you guys know anything about like sample rate and bit rate. So bit rate is like the number of bits per second that can be transmitted along a digital network. So that's just like how much information is going in, right? And so the higher your bit rate, the better, right? The higher the sample rate. The sample rate's like, I'll just look it up here. I don't want to quote it wrong, so I'm just going to look it up here. It's the number of samples of audio carried per second, right? So it's like the wavelength, right? So how long the wave is, and how many samples, right? So the digital field will like, so I don't know if you guys know, this is like a wavelength, right? So the digital stuff, so an analog will just measure that wave exactly as it is, you know, down to precision, right? So that's why people argue that the sound quality is much better. But along with that wave, you know, of great infinite information comes along with this like hiss that the tape machine makes, right? So that's why it's no good. The digital though, you know, you have like, it's basically like a bunch of peaks. And so, you know, it's like how much information is in this peak, right? And so it's like how many peaks make the form, right? So it's like either on or off, right? But it goes up a certain amount, and that's what gives you the wavelength, right? And so how many peaks do you have? Well, back when this was recorded, the standard for CDs was 44.1 samples per second, right? And that was considered to be, pretty good. And CD quality, right? You know, that's what CD quality is. I mean, nowadays, though, you know, you get like a Blu-ray, you know, your audio is going to be at a much, much higher sample rate, at a much higher quality. You know, DVDs are usually at higher sample rates as well. Sometimes they're at 28. They might be at 48,000 samples per second, right? And then the bit rate might be like 28 instead of 14. And it's just so if you record at CD quality 44.1 samples per second, and then at a bit rate at 14, right, then you're like that's CD quality, right? Well, tape is considered to be better than CD quality, right? Of course, back when this tape was manufactured, I think that a lot of people didn't really know the difference. I mean, it was like CD was just so amazing because tape was just kind of crummy, right? I mean, it still kind of is. But if you had a really, really good tape machine, right, a really good tape player, like, you know, you go out and you spend like $1,000 for a tape player, you know, you put this tape in there, this tape is going to sound probably just as good as this, right? But it won't sound any better, right? It won't sound any better at all. It'll just sound as good. I mean, this tape might not sound good now. It's shelf life, right? I mean, tapes have shelf lives. And so I'm not sure if this tape really has held up to time. I mean, I don't know how good Tom's closet is where he kept it in. I don't know if it's like, you know, pretty, you know, out of the weather, but, you know, tapes have a shelf life. It's also wrapped in cellophane, so that might make it last. Well, I'm probably not going to open it, and I'm probably just going to keep it in the cellophane, just because it's like a collector's edition, right? Because I don't even think I have a tape player, right? Honestly, but what I'm getting at is that had they recorded this album, say, on a tape machine and just kind of gone through the hassle of going through all the analog stuff, which probably most likely would have made the album probably about 10 to 20 times more expensive, right? Then they would have gotten probably a little bit better quality on this tape, right? And this tape would have been a little bit better than the CD. But then you know, they're having to like put out like analog records because they're like, oh, well, check out this quality, man. We got to get the quality up, right? But honestly, back in 1996, CD was like considered to be the best quality, and now it's like debatable. You know, it's weird how it's gone. So anyway, back to the CD. So look at the cover, really nice. All right, so I guess we'll go ahead and just start this here. I'll put it in. Here's the CD itself, right? Looks pretty cool. It has the BNO symbol, Boyz Night Out. You can tell that it's probably, although, you know, CDs were not really like as mass produced as they are now. You know, you can tell it's kind of like mass produced, but it looks like it's mass produced, but spent a little bit of money. Like this was probably like maybe, I mean, I don't know. I'm just guessing here. I'm just guessing, Tom. I'm just guessing, but I'm thinking like, you know, nowadays, like, you know, you get a really good quality duplicated versus replicated CD, and this looks like it was possibly maybe duplicated. It's hard to say. But you know, one's more expensive than the other. But this looks like it's a pretty well manufactured CD. So it's hard to say if it's like really, like if it's done by like a really top-notch company. But it looks like the same that you would see out of any others, right? Has the compact disc symbol, which you don't put on CDs anymore. The record label, I think you still see that on CDs. Yeah, it looks pretty good. It says, has the produced by J. Andrew Selby and Boyz Night Out. So I assume that J. Andrew Selby is the same Andy Selby from like the same guy that produced all those Christian label guys locally. Like gosh, I can't think of any of their names. But yeah, I assume he's this guy from Sacramento. Yeah, so we'll stick it in there. So anyway, look at the inside of that. See, there's the whole band. I think it's gonna autoplay. Yeah, here it goes. Let's click it up.
Whoa. Hey Tom, start us off, man. Give me my sound check to make the badges that really died. My sound check, 'cause you know we'll be going all night. My sound.
So it sounds like this is the Soundcheck song, and this is the song that they sang when they came out the first time that I saw them, and I think it was a little more authentic the first time I saw it than the other times, because it seems like it just kind of became routine after that. But this is pretty cool. So they're using a lot of techniques like multi-tracking, using the stereo pan. It almost sounds like there's two separate background parts. Like there's one in the left and one in the right. Pretty cool song, yeah. So here's the first. So this sounds like, this is like cover, I guess. This is Seal. This is Tom. Hope you guys can hear it. There's absolutely no way I can check. This cat, I have to let her outside. So what you're hearing is like rhythmic, like scat, which is like, here, I'll turn it right here. Listen. Yeah, listen to that. That's kind of what makes acapella kind of so cool, is when you try to kind of do clever little ways of doing the backgrounds, so the lead can just kind of take it. Like you could take these vocals and you could dump them on top of just some instruments and you wouldn't even know the difference. Oh, check this out. Sounds like vocal percussion, some bass in there. You can tell Mark Baldy paid attention in that music theory class. Vocal stack. That's always cool in this kind of music. So if you hear, they're doing like all of the instrument parts. So you're hearing like the guitar parts, all the synth parts, got all the drums. Pretty cool. So if you look in here, they have like, if you look in here, they have all the lyrics written. And if you see, this one does not have the lyrics written. And I'll tell you what the reason for that is for. It's because if they had put the lyrics in here, they would have had to pay for the rights to print those lyrics. And to do that, it gets kind of pricey. I mean, they already had to pay for the rights to put these songs on this album, so I'm sure they paid a pretty penny for that, you know. Did you guys even break even on this album? I mean, this is like getting pretty expensive here, you know. This is 1996, like, you know, and we're talking about like these record companies, they make their money off of licensing, right? And so you have to get mechanical licenses for everything, right? I'm pretty sure that even back then it was like 10 cents to 15 cents a song on the album. I mean, but you had to pay like in advance. So like you order like 5,000 CDs, you have to pay that, you know, money for those people, you know? So here's the third one. You know, it's funny because I actually heard this song on the radio once. I mean, I guess it doesn't really like, I guess there's no, you know, I guess it doesn't really help that it was in Sacramento, you know, and this was like, you know, look at that, Sacramento. But still, I heard the song on the radio and I was like, hey, it's them. It was like in Mount Shasta. Of course, you know, these guys are from Mount Shasta, so I mean, I guess it's not as crazy as I thought it was, but, well, not all of them are from Mount Shasta. Only Mark and Bill are from Mount Shasta. That's something I do a lot right here in my writing. You have the lead doing like a melody, and then the background, they're doing like a different part, but they're doing it like saying the same words. Here we're back to scat again. Build to the chorus again. So this is kind of mimicking like vocals only. Here we go. No instruments. Just the chorus. Now the instruments come back in. But in this case, it's just the guy singing on bass, you know. Ted down there. Kind of has that like Boyz II Men, like NSYNC feel. And I'm not sure if NSYNC was even like around. I know that Backstreet Boys might have been coming up, but I'm not sure who came first. These guys are the Backstreet Boys. So these guys might have been the first to do this kind of stuff. I mean, it's just basically like a rock shuffle. I don't know. Did you write it in 3/4 swing or 6/8 with the eighth note, with the 16th note swing? I'm not sure. It'd be interesting to hear what your thoughts are on this, Mark. So here, this looks like a song written by Bill Craig. Is this Bill singing? Yeah, Bill's a pretty good tenor, you know, pretty good at singing that lead. But he has his own style. Oh yeah, just so you know, I'm going to listen to this whole album. So this video is going to probably be like a little over an hour. I'm just going to let you know because I'm just going to be commenting through the whole thing. The next one I might start a little bit earlier, but yeah, so one thing to comment on this, if you look below, they have the copyrights for the lyrics, right? And you see it says ASCAP below that. And then, so it looks like they went through the effort of registering their copyright with ASCAP and all that stuff, which is a really good idea to do, because you never know, like, if your CD is gonna go anywhere, right? And I'm not sure, did you guys like break even on this? Because I mean, it looks like you spent a lot of money on it, but I mean, it sounds really good, and I know you guys were doing a lot for a while. Did you sell enough of these? I mean, this is good. I know, like, back when I was in high school, like all the girls were listening to it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, check this out. We got the Boyz Night Out album." And I'm like, "Oh, you guys are so lame. You guys are so lame." And then I finally got it, and I was like, "Wow, this is pretty good," you know? So they were listening to it like crazy, you know? So I'm thinking, well, if they're listening to it, maybe there's something there, you know? So this is a pretty cool song, pretty groovy. Those offbeats, that's how you show how great of a musician you are. Right, those offbeats. Right, you know what I'm talking about? All right, here's Imagine. So this is John Lennon, the Beatle.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us.
Nice.
Only sky.
Yeah, Bill, sounds really nice. I mean, that's like a really kind of high part. And if I'm singing up there, I know I'm sounding like crap, unless I really try. Nice stylistics. Yeah. Yeah, that was like really soulful, nice. We've got the doubling going on. Nice. I'm not the only one. I hope someday you will join us, and the world will be one. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, the same kind of like using the words in the background. Sharing all the words. You may say I'm a dreamer. I'm not the only one. Yeah, that's the adding that ninth in that chord. Good choice. Nice. Yeah. Ending it in a completely different key. That's pretty geeky. Here we go. Here we got some like 1990s. I don't know. Is it 1990s? It's like hip hop. It's like 1990s hip hop. Yeah, so that was pretty cool using the vocals doing the slap back. Sounds like they just sang it in. So you've got, sounds like he's basically singing the guitar part, but they're running it through the distortion. I heard a mistake. I heard like an early entrance. That wouldn't have happened today. You would have just kept going, or you would have fixed it, you know, in post, right? That's what I love about these older recordings. It just shows you like how much love they had for it, because they just spent the time to make it sound almost as perfect as possible, you know? Like, you guys must have spent like a week per song. King of the cards, 21 guns, make your life hard. He's a blackjack, sugar smack, kneeling down with it, and the girls all whack. He's a blackjack, just an ace to take your girl and put you in your place. Blackjack, sugar smack. He is the blackjack, sugar smack. Say fucking trade, makes the girls come back. He's the blackjack. Yeah, so pretty cool. Yeah, it's really hard to believe that this stuff didn't catch on like more mainstream than it did, right? Because I mean, but you had like, you know, you had Rockapella going at the same time, and they're kind of doing the same kind of deal, and they were like in their prime, like during these guys being in their prime, right? So a little rough, just marketing, you know. I think this stuff's honestly kind of a little bit better than Mark Leonard's arrangements, right? These are all originals. I mean, well, besides like Imagine and then Crazy, like, I mean, Most of these are originals, which is really cool. Because they're sort of like, well, hey, we're gonna try our best at hitting the rock market, you know, the pop records, you know, and that's just something really, really awesome about this album. Nice. They did the whole reverse, like, Did you guys actually do the reverse there? I'm wondering. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, that's some 90s rap right there. Thank goodness you guys wrote the lyrics in here because I could understand it. Nice. Nice. I mean, just listen how clean it is. I mean, I'm pretty sure they weren't using any vocal tuning or anything. There's Mark. So here they're dubbing because you hear Mark on 2 tracks. There's Mark again, it sounds like. Pretty cool. So if you listen really carefully, you can hear the slapback echo, just something that, you know, we've been using forever. I can hear all the punches just because I'm like, you know, audio engineer and, you know, you guys, most people don't hear that kind of stuff. Nice. Off, 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 off. Actually, that's off on, right? Off on, off on. Everybody wants to rule the world. Pretty groovy, yeah. So I'm wondering, did you guys have any kind of looping capability on those drums? Or did you just sit there and just, you know, you must have taken like a week. Nice. That must have taken a lot of practice. Nice. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. You're doing the classic fade out, you know, that's when you like go, well, it just kind of grooves and we don't want to do some cheesy like ba da 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 ba da da, right? Nice.
There's something going wrong. I don't know what to do anymore. I walked into the places.
So this is the like last tune, because it looks like they have a reprise on the last tune.
Several times in all our lives we've reached the bottom and just can't run, but you can do it.
There's Tom.
You gotta love your brother, say I love you to your sister, and just love one another too.
Bill has a distinct sound. All of them have this distinct sound, which I think works really well. They're all different singing. Pretty cool. Yeah, it's like
you gotta love your brother, say I love you to your sister, and just love one another.
pretty groovy.
We make it alright. If we understand this, then we could have true peace. 'Cause love wins out overall. Love is something that cannot be ignored. When you can't go on anymore, and love will stay gone forevermore. Love is simply waiting for you.
keychains, right? Gotta do. Don't want to bore people with the chorus again. So you take it up like a step, and then you're just like, okay, here it is again. Nice. All right. So it looks like we have the reprise here of Baby Doll. It sounds like maybe it's just the same deal, but maybe with just drums and bass guitar. Is that true? Oh, and snaps. That heavy reverb, snare. It'd be nice to hear some guitar or some piano, but it's hard to add that stuff when you have the chorus in there as well. But I probably would have just had the whole rhythm section just jam, and then I just would have just added that vocal over it, and it just would have been just even that much better. But I mean, it sounds pretty good. And you're like, maybe some like so now we have a real vocals only here, just like it should be. So was that bass? This is when the organ comes in. Right? The fade out. Nice. All right, so that's the album. That's Boyz Night Out, Rose Shambo. We just listened to it together. An amazing album. All right, so my students, I encourage you, please come get this from me and listen to it so you can get this stuff down. This is like an album that was made purely out of love. I mean, it sounds like, I mean, I don't know if you guys had like anybody like fronting you any money, but, or like Silicon Records, or if that's even a real record company, but it's just, I mean, the amount of effort that went to putting in an album like this, right, is just incredible. I mean, you have to, first off, you have to make sure that all your tracks are good and they sound good. I mean, it's really easy to produce something like this that would sound mediocre. I mean, it would be very easy. I mean, it doesn't take a lot to make a mediocre album, right? But it takes a lot of time. And we're talking about these guys had to pay probably the engineer, like, I mean, unless he's like cutting them a deal, say, hey, you know, guys, why don't you pay me like, you know, $300 for the whole day, then, you know, I don't know, maybe that's cheap, but I know that in LA you could spend up to like probably about 10 grand for a whole album just to do the recording, just for the recording time, you know. So you know, for the day, you know, you're looking at maybe like you can spend $1,500 for a whole day of studio time, right? You're there for all 12 hours, you know, and they're like, okay, we're going to cut you a deal. Instead of charging you 150 per hour, we're going to charge you, you know, 150, we're going to charge you 1,500 for the whole day. And then you can just stay 12 hours and then you're out of here. All right. Sound good? And so that's just kind of like where you're at for doing an album like this. And then you're looking at graphic design, you know, unless you know what you're doing, you know, which is a lot harder to do back in 1996. I'll tell you that, you know, to do something like this is a lot harder to do because, you know, you're not looking at just going online and going to find some cheap graphic design software, downloading it and using it. You're looking at spending like $1,000 for some graphic design software on a computer that is going to cost you a few $1,000s just to be able to run that software, right? And so you're looking at having to pay somebody pretty much to do the graphic design for you. Now, I'm not sure what these guys' backgrounds are. I know that they were like computer people. I know that at least Bill is a computer guy. So they probably knew a lot and they probably did a lot of research on what they needed to do. You know, it looks like they had a lot of help from this guy, Andy Selby, which is really awesome. You know, you got to have somebody who can show you the ropes and kind of guide you through the process of doing this kind of stuff. Sorry, as you know, I'm kind of losing my voice here because I'm like, I've been working too hard and doing too much singing, and so I'm starting to. I need to, like, you know, have better technique when I sing, because if I don't, I start to lose my voice. That's just on the list of things, you know, that I'm working on. You know, all the lists, you know, along with the long tones and the more practicing on the trumpet. You know, it's all on there, right? You just have to just try to bust through it. I think I'm doing pretty well considering. You know, I yell to my band every day, and I'm, you know, the whole hour, 4 days a week.
That was like a closed mouth burp.
So it's always fun. So you have a little extra space on your CD. So you put in a hidden track. You know, you just listen long enough and you have this hidden track. That's why I was talking this whole time, because I kind of knew it was there, because you know, this isn't my first rodeo with the CD thing, right? You kind of know, because if the CD doesn't stop like after a certain time, after the last track, then you're probably going to have something else. And some people do that. It's fun. It's fun. Yeah. Maybe I'll do it on my album. Maybe I'm going to do it. Anyway, so we have the special thanks. So you can just tell, you know, just by looking at the special thanks, how much these guys really cared. So they were just like, well, if this is going to be the first album, then it's going to be awesome. But if this is also going to be the last album, then we got to make it awesome, right? And so for a lot of, I think for most of these five, I think this is their favorite. And this is honestly, like, you know, I'd say, you know, I haven't heard the second one yet, and I haven't heard the third one yet. I've only listened to the first and fourth one, because those are the ones that they gave me for free, right? I feel bad about that, but, you know, Actually, the first one I think my mom bought for me, and then the second one they gave me for free because we're like we just met up. We hadn't seen each other for a really long time, and we're like, hey, how's it going? Hey, and we start kicking it off, and it's like, hey, you guys, you have to hear the new album. You have to hear the new album. Here it is, and I actually got to hear them perform as that group. Probably one of the last times before they all kind of started moving everywhere, So anyway, that's Rochambeau, BNO. Really awesome album. Really good job, guys. Let me know if you guys have any questions about this album, because it'd be nice to kind of get the conversation rolling about this particular album. All right, so this is Rochambeau, and this is the B-Log, number 15, the longest one yet. Whew!